In this presentation, we will enter cash outflows from the bank into our bookkeeping system. We will be taking those outflows from the bank statement and entering them directly into the check register within QuickBooks Online. For more accounting information and accounting courses, visit our website at accountinginstruction.info. Here we are in our guitar lessons and equipment file. We're now going to be entering our outflows, and we will do that by once again going to the check register, which we're going to find on the left side in the accounting tab. We're in the chart of accounts up top. We want to be in the checking accounts. We're going to go to the right in that checking account, and we want to view the register. We've entered the deposits now. Now we're going to be entering all the outflows. It's going to be great. And so we're going to go down here to our PDF file. Here we have our PDF file for January. We've entered the deposits, highlighted them as we've done. Now we're going to go to all the outflows, which adds up to this in total. We're going to enter all these items as they are here. Note, most of these are checks, but just note that the same policy or the same principle would be in case, even if they were electronic transfers. We're going to have some type of vendor information. We're going to take that vendor information, convert it to an account. So let's go through that process and just go straight through this. We're going to start off with this first one, January 1st, check number 1001, Epiphone for $400. First note that this check, of course, is not the check that this is not the date we wrote the check. It's the date that it cleared the bank. So just be aware of that. If we were doing the full service system, of course, we would enter the check as of the date we wrote it. And this is going to be the check date that it cleared the bank because we're taking it from the bank statement. And then we have the check number, so we can enter the check number if we have it. If we don't, we just wouldn't enter the check number, and that's fine. And then we're going to have Epiphone is going to be the vendor. So this is the key term. This is what we principally need in order to determine what this was for. And here we may not know Epiphone. We may not know. Now, I know that the client deals with guitars and whatnot. So if I was to search Epiphone, I might want to do some research on it, Google Epiphone, or browser search it. And I find out that has to do with guitars. So maybe I would say, maybe that's their vendor for purchasing guitars, if I happen to know they sell guitars. So we can clearly figure this type of stuff out if we have some sense of the industry that we're dealing with, whether it be our company or someone else's. But I don't know for sure, and it's the first month, so I'm going to tell the client, hey, I'm going to have questions about these things. And so I'll guess just to tell the client, hey, I'm engaged. I want to know about your business. Is this a guitar thing? Because it's but I'm gonna verify that with the client to make sure that we're on the right track in this first month, because that'll make the rest of the months all correct as well. And if it's wrong, then that'll make all the rest of the months wrong, and we'll have to fix it at some later time. So just note that the first month can be a little discouraging for that reason, because we're gonna have a lot of questions. But we're just gonna keep pushing forward, and it'll be good, and we're just not gonna stop, not gonna let it stop us. We'll just keep pushing forward. So we're going to enter this data in. We're going to go back to our account, not into the that version, but into the online version here. We're in the check register. So we're going to select the drop down now. Now we could enter a check, and if it wasn't a check, we can use like an expense. These would be the kind of typical outflows. I'm going to use a check here because this is a check. So we'll select a check. The date is going to be 01/04/19, January 4th, 2019. Check number is 1001. Now the check numbers will populate automatically, but it's not going to be as useful to us to do that, because it's not going to be in order by check number on the bank statement. It's going to be in order by date cleared. So tracking the check number is not as useful and internal control as it is, but we'll still enter the check number in there. We're going to have the vendor then. I'm going to type in as Epiphone. Hopefully I spell this correctly, Epiphone. And of course we don't have any vendors yet, so we're going to enter the vendors as we go, because the vendors will tell the system which account should be there, and then QuickBooks will memorize that system and select the proper account next time. So I'm going to say, all right, tab, and I want to add it. Now we could add details, but we're not going to have any details typically. So like the name of the vendor and the phone number, contact information. I'm not going to add any of that detail because we're really just quickly entering this data into the system to create the financial statements. So this is going to be a quick process. So we're just going to say save. We're not going to enter the details. So we'll save that. Memo. If we have a memo, it's always good to have the memo. If there's something you could put in the memo, more details, the better. so that you can, go back to it and answer any questions. Now, we don't know where it's going to go. So I'm going to, because I don't know who Epiphone is, I'm guessing it's like inventory for a guitar or something like that. But I'm going to go and say, I don't know yet. So I want to do some kind of uncategorized account as we did with the income account. But now I want an uncategorized expense account. So I'm going to say, I'm going to put that in uncategorized expense, saying I don't know where it goes. And then I'm going to write a note on it again. So we're going to say, hey, on 1/4, there was going to be an amount for $400 amount. We could put the check number, might help. It was check number 1001. And it was, the major thing we want is the vendor. Epiphone is the vendor. There's it for Epiphone. And we don't know what this is for. What is this for? And we might then give our guess. Is it inventory for a guitar? And we might guess that, and it would be helpful to give that guess. Again, we would of course word this better if we're going to email the client on something like this. And then I'm going to save our notes and say, all right, that's our note. And then we're going to put it in uncategorized and save that. Now just let's take a look at what happens when we do that in our reports as we go. So to do that, I'm going to right click on this tab up top to duplicate it. So we're going to right click on this tab, duplicate it. And then in the duplicated tab, we're going to go to the reports down below. We want to look at that income statement or profit and loss again. It's in the favorite reports. We want to go to the profit and loss favorite report. Change the dates up top from 01/01/19 to 12/31/19. So January through December 2019, and run that report. Then if we scroll down, we have now an expenses. So we've got income and then expenses with this uncategorized. And we know anything we put in there, and there's going to be a few things that are going to be in here, we're going to have to go back in and recategorize to the right account, which we can do that by just clicking on it. And then that puts us to the data input screen, not back to the check register, but to a check form, which will give us that uncategorized fund, which will just change to whatever it should be once we get the answer. So we'll close this back out. We're going to go back to our report up top. We'll go to our next item. I'm back onto the register tab. Okay, so then we'll select the next item. I'm going to say, all right, we found the 400. And now we're on Gibson. So once again, I don't even know who Gibson is again. So I got the same question. I could look that up. It's going to be another guitar related thing. So maybe that's inventory as well. It's a bit discouraging. We don't know where these two are, but that's okay. We're going to push forward. It's the first month. It'll be easier on the second month. We're going to ask all of our questions at one time. So we'll go back over here and say this is going to happen on the 7th. And check number is going to be 1002. And these are all going to be new vendors. So I'm always going to have to type in for the first month until we get these vendors added. Second month will be a lot easier. We're going to tab and just going to have the name. That's all I want. Save. And we're going to put this into the payment. And the payment is going to be for 500. And we're going to say that it is once again into uncategorized. I'm going to type in uncategorized expense. I don't know where it goes. And we're going to go ahead and save that. And we're going to put another note here and say, okay, here's another one. This one happened on 1/7. There is a $500 amount. Check number 1002 to Gibson. What is this for? Is it inventory? So same question that we're going to ask on that one. And then we'll close this back up. Next item. Going to say we input that. We don't know where it goes, but it's input. Now we've got the safe insurance company. So we could say it says insurance in the title, so we can safely assume that it's some type of insurance. That's good. So we're going to say this happened on the 8th, and this is going to be 100. That's the right check number. We're going to type in once again the vendor. Going to have to enter the vendor every time just for the first month. Second month, many will be the same, hopefully. And we will then save that as a vendor, saving that. We're going to say the payment was for $12,000. Now, we might want to put this into insurance expense. There's an expense account for insurance. But they paid $12,000 for insurance. That's a lot. You know, that might be kind of high. In other words, it might look like that's more than 1 month's worth of insurance. So what if that was paid for the entire year, in other words? Then it might distort the books if we put it in all in January. Now, on a complete cash basis, that's what we would do. No problem. If that's what we want to do, that's fine. However, if we want to compare January to February, then it might be better this might be one item we might want to variate from the accrual method and determine if we want to then apply it out on an accrual basis. So I'm going to make that assumption just for our example problem. If you want to enter it all in 1 month, and that'll just make the expense for January look a lot lower than maybe it would be on an accrual basis. We'll discuss that and the pros and cons of that later. I'm going to make a note for it for now, and we'll discuss that as well. So for this item as well, I'm going to say that I'm going to put this into uncategorized, and I'm going to ask my accountant about it or ask our client about it. So it's going to be uncategorized expense. I'm going to save that, and I'm going to put a note in here and say that on this one happened on 1/8, Safe Insurance Company, we paid $12,000, and we want to know what the coverage period is. So how long is it? Is it a year? Is it for a year? Is it for a quarter? Is it for just a month? And then we can determine if we want to then just expense it now, or if we want to basically apply it over whatever period is covered. If it's an entire year, we should be expensing it, every month for that year, rather than all on the same day. So then we're going to have that item. So we'll see what else we've got here. That is the 12,000. And then we're going to go to Staples Supplies. So Staples, there we go on that. I'm going to go back over here and say that happened on the 10th. So the Staples Supply, that's going to be 1004. And so we'll have to type in Staples Office Supplies tab, and we're going to save that. Now, Staples, we're pretty confident, is an office supplies store. So it's going to be a payment, and it's going to be for $400. So we can fairly safely assume that that's an expense. Office supplies, the dollar amount's fairly low, so it's not going to be something that we think should be capitalized or it's going to be causing any problems there. So we're going to say, we're going to put that into some type of expense account, looking to see what QuickBooks has for us, some type of supplies. So we got job supplies, probably office supplies would be better. So we have office supplies, software, other business expenses. Let's put it into office supplies and software. So we'll choose that. That's the generic name that QuickBooks gave us. We're not going to add any new accounts unless the QuickBooks accounts don't fit what we have. So we'll say that's good, and we'll say okay. And if you want to customize it, you could to add new accounts, but it's easier to stick with the standards, which are QuickBooks, which are kind of more industry standards. So we're going to say, all right, let's find that one. And then we're going to go to Edison. So we're going to go to Edison is the next one. And that's going to be on 1005. And it's going to be Edison Electric. And again, it says electric in the name. I'm going to save that. So it sounds like the electric company, obviously. And if we are not in an area where we know Edison, we can look up Edison Electric and find out pretty quickly and say, that looks like the electric company. And so that seems that I'm pretty confident what that is for. And then I have to determine the expense account. Now I could put it into an expense account called electric expense and break that out. Or I could just put it into, say, utilities, which is probably more common. But again, it depends on the industry. If the utilities are such that I would like to break them out, like electric versus gas, because electric is important and I want to see it individually, then I might make another expense account and say just electric. But the convention usually is to combine electric and gas, and it used to be the phone too would go in here, but oftentimes the phone is something that I think a lot of companies will break out at this point. So I'm going to put that into utilities now and save that one. And then we're going to go over here and say that's going to be the Edison, highlight that. And then we have Office Depot. So here's Office Depot, but it's a large dollar amount. So this doesn't look like it's just, Office Depot is a supply store, but that's kind of a big dollar amount for just supplies. So that if there's a big dollar amount that goes out, then we got to think, well, maybe they purchase like equipment. Maybe I should, in other words, be capitalizing it. Maybe it's something on the tax return that we're going to have to put on as equipment, as opposed to just an expense. And that's, you can determine that kind of just on dollar amount. I mean, if it's over, like at least if it's over 1,000 or something, you start to question. If it's over something like 500, you could probably even start to think, well, that's getting large for something at office supplies. So that's kind of an arbitrary question, but it can trigger a question for us and then say, should I go in and ask about this. Should it be something that should be depreciated over time as opposed to something that's just a normal kind of expense? So, and that we're gonna ask about it. We're gonna say, hey, that's kind of high. So we'll enter that into our system as well. We're gonna say, okay, that happened on the 13th, and that was the check number 1008. I believe we're on. Whoop, 1008. And that's going to be for Office Depot. So we'll say Office Depot and tab. We're going to save that. And we're going to say that the payment amount was $9,000. And once again, I don't know where it's going to go right now, so I'm going to put it into uncategorized expenses. And we'll save that item. Now we'll put this in our notes as well. So we're going to say, all right, here's our notes. This happened on 1/13, and I'm just going to say Office Depot, and we're going to say it was for let's just say 9,000 was the amount. What was this for? Seems high for office supplies. Was it equipment? So something like that, because if it was equipment, then we would need to capitalize it. And for taxes, it would need to be something on the books as an asset. If it's equipment in that format, we would want to also let the client know you should probably keep the receipt on that. Let your tax preparer know at the end of the year so that we can list out those items and make sure that we're properly recording those items. So I'm going to save that. And then we'll go back over here and say, okay, there's the 9,000. So we've got that item. Now we're going to go to the 15, another item that's pretty large here, right? It's a large item, Vanguard Investments. Now, if we look at that, that'll be like investments in something like stocks and bonds investment company. So that's another one where we can be fairly confident that it's some type of investments in stocks and bonds, but it's not normal. It's not going to happen all the time that we see money going out to put it into stocks and bonds. So we're going to want to ask about that and just make sure that, that is what we believe it should be and where it should go. So we're going to go back over here then, and we're going to say that this is on Vanguard the 14th. So it's going to be the 14th is going to be the date, and it was check number 1010, and we're going to have to type in Vanguard Investments. So Vanguard Investments. If I misspell these, I'm sorry. And so we'll save that. And then we're going to say that it's going to go out on a payment of $15,000. Tab. And again, I'm pretty sure it's going to be some type of investment account, but we want to verify that. So I'm going to go ahead just to list it to be able to know it's in uncategorized, so I can then go and double check it. We're going to put it into uncategorized expense and go ahead and save that. So there we have that. And then if I go back over here, we're going to say, all right, there's the 15,000. We found that. Let's put it into the notes once again. So we'll go into the notes. We're going to say that this happened on 1/14. There was 15,000 in Vanguard Investments. Is this investment in stock and bonds? Something like that. Is it business or personal? Right, we might want to check that out because maybe it's an investment in stocks and bonds and it shouldn't be in the business side. Maybe it's a personal investment that we should be taking out of business and putting into the personal side of investments. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And that's going to be our information. Now we're then going to go back in and we'll continue with entering this data next time. We'll continue entering more deposits next time. It will be great. For more accounting information and accounting courses, visit our website at accountinginstruction.info.